Welcome, everybody. We are here with our Farm to School BC webinar series. We're going to learn today about how to conduct a waste audit at your school. We have representatives from the city of Kamloops as well as the, I want to say capital. That's not what it is. Columbia.
Yeah. Columbia Shoe Shop.
Columbia Shoe Shop Regional District. And then Serena is our Kamloops animator. So she's going to be leading us through a step-by-step waste audit that she did last week in a school. So before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about Farm to School. Go to the next slide. Thanks. So Farm to School, we are a program administered by the Public Health Association of BC and supported by the Province of British Columbia and the Provincial Health Services Authority. Farm to School programs are based on 3 pillars. You can see on the left there: healthy local food, hands-on learning, and school and community connectedness. We have 6 regional hubs throughout the province and a regional community animator in each one. So today we have monthly webinars from all of our community animators, and today we're in the interior region for Kamloops Shuswap area. And since 2007, we have funded over 200 schools, and our most recent grant cycle, an estimated 16,000 students have actively participated in the program. We have a pretty great reach. Just to note, this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our website. So if you're uncomfortable with your name being in the recording, please feel free to change it. It's nice to see faces in the webinar, but you don't feel like you need to put on your video if you don't want to. We will have space for questions afterward. Serena will be available. We're hoping to end the presentation at 4, and Jamie and Graham will go then. But Serena and I will stay on until 4:30 if there's any conversation to happen about waste audits, because they're so exciting. And we can also, Serena's available afterwards to get emailed. So Serena is our Farm to School animator for the Kamloops region and specializes in making up recipes from odds and ends in her fridge because she doesn't like to waste anything. She feels obligated to purchase discounted dairy products for a quick sale and hopes to join or start Zero Waste Local Food Box program. Hooray! And Graham Castleman, is that how you say your name, Graham? Okay, sorry, I should have checked before. He's the waste reduction coordinator for the Columbia Shoe Shop Regional District and is responsible for everything recycling. Hooray! And Jamie Garbutt is a sustainability educator for the city of Kamloops and is amazing and will go into your class or do a Zoom with your class and talking about all things sustainability, whether it's water or waste or litterless lunches. She's fabulous.
Thank you.
So to stay connected, as always, you can go to our website, farmtoschoolbc.ca. We have regional listservs, and these are all of our animators and all our hubs. And our next webinar, is that on here?
That's the last slide.
Okay. Can you go to that one?
This is the last slide, sorry.
Oh, that is the last line. Okay. I will tell you about it all later. So I'll pass it over to Serena now. Thank you.
And today we are going to talk about doing a school waste inquiry. And Graham and I did one last week and it went really well, I think. And we're really excited about this idea because it's a very engaging way to get kids to think about, you know, where things go when they put them in the garbage. So I just wanted to start with a territory acknowledgement. So I'm talking to you on Secwepemc territory, and this is actually in my home. So why do a waste audit? So the big thing is that, you know, everyone produces a lot of waste every single day, and the waste that you make ends up at a landfill. You know, it produces methane, which is a greenhouse gas that contributes to global warming and accelerates climate change. So what we want to do is you do an inquiry to find out what we can do to reduce that. And in schools, that can translate into saving money. So you know, if you have a principal who's not interested in supporting a waste audit, you know, a good strategy is to get, you know, the district on board and operations, because this is something that can save school districts a lot of money. Now I'm not going to show you these movies because you can watch them on your own time, but I just wanted to give you guys a few resources that you can use with your classroom. So this short movie is one made the Comox Strathcona Waste Management, and it's sort of like a tour of the landfill, but it's quite well done, and they're kind of goofy and being funny. So I think most kids would like it, and it is also a very straightforward and balanced point of view. When I was searching YouTube for videos on waste, like a lot of them are kind of fear-based and you know, or they have like these pictures of these cute turtles that are like choking with plastic bags around their necks. And while those images are powerful, you know, I think there's enough anxiety in children these days. We don't need to increase that. So I felt like this one was sort of a balanced explanation of what happens to garbage, and they did it in a fairly engaging way. The other one that the other one that was quite good, they have these TED education talks, and this one was talking about the life cycle of a plastic bottle. So it just talks about, you know, how plastic is made, and then it follows 3 bottles, and one gets put in the garbage and ends up at the landfill. One is recycled, and then one ends up in a stream, and it kind of follows it to what would happen if you don't put your plastic in the garbage. So this one was good because it's a good way of talking about, like, yes, you should put your garbage in the garbage can because it's better to be at the landfill than in your water. But then, you know, recycling would be a better choice than the landfill, because then it's reused and melted down and made into some more plastic. So I learned quite a bit on this one. and so I thought it was pretty good. And again, this probably wouldn't be early elementary. This is probably like grade 4 and up, I would say. Jamie and Graham, do you have any other suggestions for? No? Okay. Okay, so what are some of the things we can do as a classroom about waste? So, you know, one of the things is you can measure it. And that's something that you do in your waste audit. So how much do we produce? What kind of waste is in the garbage cans in schools? And again, you know, kids could do this at home. I actually did this at home last weekend at my house. And I mean, I've learned so much just preparing for this webinar, and it's amazing how many things I had in my garbage that I could have recycled or composted. Oh. I don't know why that happened. Sorry. The other one is, you know, building awareness. So one of the outcomes of this, you know, first of all your kids will understand what can be recycled and put in the compost and garbage, and all that comes home, and then they tell their parents about it. And so it's a great way of, you know, informing families. But again, just getting the idea that when you throw in the garbage, it doesn't just disappear into the nowhere land. And then the final thing we're going to talk about is coming up with an action plan. And I'll just give you some ideas of what you can implement in your classroom or in your school that have been shown to reduce waste. Okay, so the first few things, so there's a lot of different ways to do a waste audit. So Graham and I actually like dumped out the garbage and spread it out on a sheet, and we just looked at everything. If that kind of grosses you out, you can do really simple waste audits. So one is just weighing how much waste you make, period. Like just getting a scale and just recording, you know, how many kilograms of waste your school or your classroom has produced in a day. The other thing that you can do is you can put all the garbage into clear plastic bags and just do a visual. So, you know, kids can estimate about how much in that garbage could have been recycled or could have gone into composting. And so those are two ways you can do it without having to actually touch the garbage. Final note, we were talking about, you know, feminine hygiene products. So we were lucky, we were at an elementary school and we didn't have any, but that could be, you know, that could be something that could turn some students and teachers off. So again, you could consider telling your custodian just not to include the female washroom garbage can. So the first thing is you just want to get your team, you want to get permission from your administrator and then get them excited about it. And so some of the ways to get kids excited about this is to set up the problems. You know, you can show those videos, you can talk about, you know, you can go visit. So I know that Jamie and Graham, they do field trips to the landfill. Graham, do you want to just quickly talk about that?
Yeah, so in part of my role at the regional district is that, you know, I offer landfill tours right through, you know, elementary, right through secondary. So depending on the class and sort of what they want to see and, you know, how it sort of ties into a unit that I might be doing, I can sort of tailor tours to that. And pretty much most regional districts or cities, you know, in the province, you know, do offer tours of landfills to schools as a service and just for an education piece as well.
And Jamie, do you want to just briefly chat about some of the opportunities you guys offer?
So my role is more on the education side within the classroom. So I talk more about what's recyclable and like how we can prevent waste and reduce our waste. There is opportunity to do a landfill tour. We haven't offered it in the past, but I know that our solid waste team would allow for that. You just have to be able to get a bus there, and then because of safety reasons, the students wouldn't be able to leave the bus, unfortunately, unless they had steel-toed boots and high-vis vests and all the PPE that you would need.
Okay.
But the bus, you do see quite a bit from the bus to begin with. So
right. Okay. So there you go. A bus tour to the dump. So great. Okay. So then, you know, you can talk, and this is where you can bring in the place-based learning, right? So whatever community you live in, you know, you can talk about where the garbage goes in your community. So this is a picture of our dump from the sky. And I think, Graham, when is it going to be full?
Well, they just started a new phase, and the new phase, which is about phase 4, is going to be about 80 years. Okay. And then they're going to go on to phase 5, which I think is another 40 or 50 years.
Okay.
I mean, currently right now at the rate that it's filling up, which hopefully with reduction and diversion and all sorts of new technologies that are going to be coming on board, hopefully we'll get less and less that are actually being landfilled.
Right. And if you can't go to the dump, that landfill movie that I had on my first slide is a good virtual tour of the landfill. The other thing that you can do in Salmon Arm, we compost our food waste at our school district. And so this is Spa Hills Compost is where all the district food waste goes. And so this is the owner of Spa Hill. She talks about composting and what happens to it. So, you know, that could be a video that you show to your classroom, but I won't show it to you today. So then the second step, so once you've kind of got your class organized and you've set a date, then you want to ask the custodian to set aside the garbage for you. So we have a great custodian at the school we worked at, and she put it all out for us, and it was really easy for us to just, so that we took it, and Graham brought a little, like a handheld scale weight. And he just weighed the garbage before we dumped it out. And then we dumped it out. So we just set down a sheet of plastic, or you could use a tarp. There's also, if you want to do it indoors, you could put some tables together, like set it on some tables. We gave each kid a pair of rubber gloves, which was of course a big hit. And then we divided into, what was going to end up in the landfill, what would be in recycling, and what goes in the compost. So some school districts don't have compost, but it's still an interesting thing to measure out, because theoretically those foods could always be composted, right? So it's a big part of food rate landfill diversion is composting. Do you, either of you, Graham or Jamie, know the amount of the landfill that's food waste?
Well, typically it's around 30 to 40% of the material going in is food waste. On our audit that was done in 2018, but now with the food waste diversion happening, we're actually going to do another audit at the landfill in July to kind of see how that has changed in terms of having that food waste diversion happening. But most landfills, it's about 30 to 40%. It's pretty high.
Yeah, I read 40 today when I was looking at it, so that's right. Like they were on this, my source was the same. So then we separated the garbage into recycling, organics, and garbage. Now this is a really this is where I was really happy to have Graham there, because recycling is so confusing because they've changed it so many times in my lifetime on what they accept and don't accept. So I just wanted to clarify that for a moment, because I know that question always comes up. So the schools is the same as your curbside pickup bin. And curbside pickup, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told that it's the same across the province. So recycling is provincial. So in BC, in your school, you should be able to recycle cleaned out containers like yogurt or applesauce, like all those little plastic containers. And the lids are also recyclable. Coffee cups, like Tim Hortons coffee cups, are recyclable, as are the lids. Garden pots, like, so if you've been doing little planting with your class, all those pots, if they're broken, you can recycle them. And then plastic and paper takeout containers. I mean, those would be primarily, and juice boxes would be primarily what you would find in a school garbage can. Metal cans, aluminum foil can also be recycled. But the big thing is no paper towels. So paper towels can be composted, but they cannot be recycled. And I think it's because they're already made from recycled material, and they're at the end of it. It's like the tree at the very end of its lifespan before it becomes soil again.
Sorry, can I interject on something too?
Yeah.
Just with the yogurt lids, if it's more of that flexible packaging, if it's plastic, that would actually have to go to the depot. But if it is tin foil, then it can go into the bins, and that's what for our program in Kamloops.
Okay, so that is also confusing. So it might be better to throw it in the garbage, because if you
so this one here, this is kind of the plastic. So if you bend it, it kind of it won't hold its shape. Whereas tin foil, if you crinkle it into a ball, it'll keep its shape. So that's what I usually tell kids.
The plastic ones. Okay, so the plastic ones you can't recycle.
At the depot, you can.
Yeah. Right, and so and I guess those are similar to the granola bar wrappers and the chip bags. Like it's that same kind of plasticky tinfoily, or it's not tinfoil, but it looks shiny.
Exactly. So we call that flexible packaging.
Okay, so that cannot be recycled, but it could be recycled at the depot.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the kind of education that it's really confusing for adults, but that's the kind of stuff you need to review with your students. So Recycle BC depot centers only glass. So school recycling, you can't put glass in it. Plastic bags, so things like grocery and produce and overwrap. And then other flexible plastic packaging. So crinkly wrappers, Ziploc, woven plastic bags, and plastic seal packaging. So all those cannot be recycled at school, but if you take them home, if the kids take them home, they can recycle them at the depot. Is that correct? Yes, okay. So I think this is the most confusing thing about recycling, is this idea that what you can recycle at school is not the same, and at your home is not the same as what you can recycle at the depot. Are there any questions in the people listening? No? Okay. So after you've separated all the groups, then we weighed them all again to find out how much of the garbage could have been recycled or composted. So this is where you get to sneak in math, depending on your grade. But so we calculated the diversion rate. So that's the percentage of the compostable and recycled material that has been diverted away from the landfill. So that's the stuff that you've saved from going to the landfill. And you can also measure the contamination rate. So for example, what we found was that in the recycling, so we actually emptied out the recycling, and we found that people had put in yogurt containers that were not cleaned out, and those would not be recycled. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if they might throw that all in the garbage if there's too much contamination. Is that right? In your recycling?
Yeah, that's correct. If the transporter or at the end sorting facility, if they find too much contamination, then yeah, that whole load could potentially be rejected. Right.
So just by being a bit thoughtless and throwing your yogurt in without cleaning out, you could actually end up ruining everyone else's recycling efforts. So it's really important as teachers, to remind your students that they need to clean out their yogurt containers or whatever food container before they put it in the recycling. That's really important. So you can sneak in more math. So what you can do is once you have your waste, students can calculate how much waste they make in a week and how much they make in a month and how much you make in a year. And so you could figure out the waste per student per school year. And I'll go to this later, but there's a school in Ontario with 467 students, and they make 2.5 kilos of garbage for the entire school a day, which is pretty good for that size of a school. So it's a great opportunity and then you can share your findings with your school and sort of talk about it. And it's a really great opportunity if you can do this to review with students at your school what can be recycled, what needs to go in the compost, and what goes in the garbage. So I think in schools, the big thing is paper towels need to go in the compost if you have school-wide composting. And food containers need to be cleaned out, and then any kind of other food wrappers should be put back in your lunch kit and taken home so that you can recycle them at the depot. So that's sort of the messaging that would be great. And obviously not all parents are going to recycle what their kids bring home, but at least there's that potential. So the final thing is you can make a waste minimization plan. So some of the ideas that I saw that are interesting, you could do student interviews about food waste. So, when you see a kid throwing away part of their lunch, finding out why, is if they don't like it. I know, Jamie, this is something that you talk a lot about in your job. Do you want to give us a few tips?
Sure. Yeah, so with some of the audits that we did here in Kamloops, we found that there was a lot of uneaten food being thrown out. So entire sandwiches, oranges that haven't even been cracked open, like even packaged foods like juice boxes and cookies. So it's really important to encourage students to take that home and have the discussions with their parents. Maybe whatever the reason is, maybe they don't like the food, maybe there's not enough time for them to eat the food and the parents are packing too much. So it's good to kind of let students know that we don't want to waste food, because there is still a lot of time, energy, and water used to produce the food in the first place. So it's quite sad to see it being thrown out, especially when there's some kids that struggle with having healthy meals every day.
Right. And I saw some ideas that would probably not be an acceptable solution anymore. Okay, so you know, a big thing is educating admin, staff, students about what can be recycled and what can't. So like at one school, they made this board and they were just reminding that, you know, these things would have to end up in the garbage at school. And these things could be recycled. But again, I think that's the thing that most people struggle with, is knowing what goes where. The one idea that I really liked is having this one-stop waste station. So I guess at this school, they only have one, like the kids are trained because there's only one area where you would throw away your food. And then it's all lined out so that you're probably not going to put things in the wrong way. So it's really clearly labeled. Because we noticed at the school where we did our waste audit, outside in the schoolyard, there was only a garbage, right? So if you have food waste, you're probably not gonna like take the time to go inside the school and find a compost bin. You're gonna do what's easiest, which is just to throw everything in the garbage. So sometimes the design about how things are laid out at your school are gonna make a big impact on what, where it ends up. The other thing is recess before lunch. And I think in our school district, we already do this, but again, you know, there's research showing that when kids are allowed to play before they eat, then they eat more of their lunch because they're not trying to rush through it so they can go outside and play. A waste-free lunch challenge. So the only thing I would say about this is to make sure that you're framing this in a positive way and not making kids because this is more about training the parents than the children, right? Like small children don't have a choice on how their parents pack their lunch. So you don't want them to feel bad that everything's in a Ziploc bag or saran wrap. But again, you know, if you could sort of present it as this idea that, you know, maybe if you have a waste-free lunch, you can enter your name in a draw to get a prize. But not make people who don't do this feel ashamed about their lunch. The other thing you can do is, I know some classes have made like wax wraps in class, and then they can send them home and the parents can use them. Cut up fruits and vegetables. So again, I mean, this is also a parent thing, but there is evidence that if you cut up your kids' fruit, they're more likely to eat it. And so I was thinking, you know, I think the fruit and vegetable nutrition program that runs in most schools, a lot of that food gets wasted. And I think if teachers took the time to cut it up and serve it, the kids would eat it. Vermicomposting. So this is worm composting. So if your school doesn't have a composting program, you can get these bins in your classroom and they don't smell. And I know Sonia Rokosh is on this call and she does this in her classroom. So she maybe wants to speak about it. But if you're interested, there's a link here where it has all the information on how to do it. Sonia, do you want to say anything about
yeah, sure. Just really quick, because I'm conscious of time. The worms were slightly neglected for a little while, but it's super easy to set up. So you just need a bin that is dark. You drill some holes in the sides and underneath it, and then you set it up on 2 pieces of wood, any kind of wood, and then you have a pie tray underneath to catch any liquid. And you have it be like a class goal or a class job to feed the worms, and they feed your compostable fruit and veggie material, and they just cut it up really tiny. So you can make lessons around that could be appropriate for like K to grade 12. So if anyone has questions, feel free to contact me as well.
All right.
I can also comment on that as well, because we actually, in partnership with the TNRD, we can actually provide vermicomposting bins to classrooms.
Cool.
So it kind of depends. I'm not too sure how that's going to work with COVID, because I'm not supposed to be going into a class, but maybe we can get one and just drop it off and run, and then we can just do it.
Drop off.
And then maybe do a presentation over Zoom and whatnot. I know that our supplier likes to wait until the ground is completely thawed, so it's not super intrusive to harvest the worms, but we do have a supplier here in Kamloops that, and again, we can set up a classroom. So,
Great.
and I'm so sorry, but I have to go. So
Yes. Well, thank you, Jamie.
But thank you so much for
Jamie.
having me today. Sorry, I have to run.
Yeah, no
Okay,
problem.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and then the other one I saw that I liked was the Goose bin. So good on one side paper. So there, there's tons of the paper that we could reuse on the other side. So again, that'd be part of your reduce. Even before it's recycled, it could be used on the other side. And just some campaigns to be aware of. So City of Kamloops has this Love Food, Hate Waste campaign, and it's just a little promotional fun video that talks about, all the food waste that ends up in the garbage. And the other interesting thing is this Eco Schools Canada certification. So this is a free voluntary environmental certification program for schools across Canada. And what I think is cool is that they've done studies on this, and schools that are certified actually produce less garbage. They studied schools that are not certified and schools that are. So basically you go online and it helps you curate this action plan, and then you can track whatever you choose to do, then you can track all your metrics. And school districts can actually apply. So then you could have like kind of friendly competitions between schools. So again, if you want to, and you can register as a teacher, like you can just register for your class, you can register as a school, and you can register as a school district. But the deadline for registration is May 14th, if you'd like to, and I put the information there, but I thought that's kind of a fun, and they have tons of resources, and they have a newsletter that you can sign up for that'll send you ideas on it's not just about waste, like they talk about all kinds of ways of being more environmentally mindful, but food waste and waste minimization is definitely important. So yeah, they did a study, and the eco schools produce 57% less garbage than the non-certified schools. And they have different levels. So the platinum, those are like your hardcore schools. But so you basically you do these activities and then you get points. And then you're either like a bronze, a gold, or platinum. And so you can work your way up depending how many points your schools get. And not to embarrass Graham, but I am so impressed by this, that he told me the last time he took out garbage was in January. And I've been thinking, I think about that every day now. And there's no way I have children, so there's no way I can really get there, but I'm definitely, I've been measuring my garbage, and I'm on to, I'm gonna reduce it. So the other thing to know about is there is a National Waste Reduction Week. So if you wanna organize around your school, it's October 19th to 25th next year. That would be a good time to kind of do the waste audits. If you're meeting as a school talking about next year, or as a district, that would be a great timing. And then again, you can always contact whoever your regional waste reduction specialist and look into doing, field trips to the dump or having them come in. So those are some ideas. And then I just here have listed a ton of different resources that I've gone through that I thought were pretty good. So the Ministry of Education has some, Recycle Council of BC, Metro Vancouver has a lot of stuff on waste reduction, and they have all the curricular connections. For you who are those schools on the Lower Mainland, Green Bricks, they will provide free workshops to schools, and they have one on waste reduction. They also do them on like water, and the Vancouver Aquarium has really cool lesson plans. There's this resources for rethinking, and these are resources that have been reviewed by teachers, and they're supposed to be for teachers. There is a grant available. It's called Stewards of the Future Toolkit. And for grades 6 to 12, you can apply for $200-800 funding to do some kind of class initiative around the environment. And the funding deadline for that's in November. And then these are just some examples of, this is a school that did a waste inquiry and he posted all of his lesson plans. This was a waste audit done in a big secondary school. So to see what it would look like if you were to do it at a large secondary school. And then the COMOCs, they just have tons of curricular stuff. So there, there's just so many resources for teachers. So this is some of them, but there are more too. And that's it. So are there any questions?
Karen was very excited about the vermicomposting.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there funding available for a school to get a one-stop waste station?
That's a great question. And Graham, do you know that answer?
In the Shishwap?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any funding source for a one-stop drop. Yeah, I mean the CSR, we wouldn't provide it at the CSRD.
Yeah. Maybe we can find out where, because I think in Kamloops I've seen them at TRU, so maybe I could find out where they get them at TRU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea, right? It's like making
Mhm.
the environment conducive to following good behavior.
Because I think it's all about access. Like there's a garbage can outside, so that's what they're going to do is throw it out in the garbage, right? So if it's so easy to access, those people who wouldn't otherwise are going to think twice about it. So.
And if you only have one in your school, I think I always like ideas that reduce work for people. Like I'm just thinking as a custodian, if I'm just dumping out garbages at one area of the school, how much happier I would be.
Yeah.
And Arthur Hatton, it was like part of their ADST program, which was cool. They made the one-stop waste station. So they prototyped a bunch of different designs, and then I think they ended up using like PVC pipe, but they weren't that expensive to make. So I can, maybe get you in touch with or Serena can get you in touch with the teacher and see if they can share the plans.
Sonia, one idea is the makerspace in Salmon Arm. They have a 3D printer. Would that be something you could make out of a 3D printer, I wonder?
I don't know.
It'd be a pretty big project.
It would be a big project.
I don't know.
But you do like little ones and then sell it to the district. I mean, the district, I think if you propose that on a district level, it makes so much sense to me that they might go for it and then purchase them for each school.
And
Maybe I'll contact Terry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, and you don't even need like the central stations, right? I mean, especially here in this school district, like you have composting and recycling in every classroom, and then you just make a centralized garbage, right? And then so the kids actually have to like physically walk down the hallway to use the garbage, right? Versus, so in every classroom there's compost and recycling, so all those items are being disposed of there. And then if you have something for the garbage, it physically has to be walked down the hall, or there's a couple places in the school or whatever you can drop it. When I was doing school back in Ontario at a university, that's what they did, is they took out all the garbages from every classroom, and they so you actually had to physically take your garbage down the hallway to be able to put it in the garbage, and then that reduced their garbage by a lot. And they had recycling in every, they didn't have compost, but they had recycling in every classroom.
So you're making recycling and composting convenient, but garbage is a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
Graham, did they have like some sort of like buzzer system or like electrical component where like if a kid put garbage in the recycling, it would go like ding, 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 ding? Because I find my grade 5 kids still put their garbage in the recycling and the janitor gets really mad. But like, I think university students, it's a different like target audience with like how they're going to think about it cognitively, but I hear you. So I could do that. That's one like step. But I think the all-in-one stop station also is like a nice visual, but
exactly.
It's just,
and it works, right? Yeah, it works well for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then if you have all in one, then you don't actually have to, like, the custodian is only taking even the recycling from one area. Or is
Well,
that too inconvenient to not have it in the classroom?
it all depends on the teacher, I guess, and how often, they want their kids going up and down the hallways.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any questions?
Oh, nope.
Karen?
I've got somebody dealing with me. What's your email? But yeah, I'm just concerned about the garbage also in the school, and I've come to learn that Kamloops, the band, they're not recycling, or I don't know if you know much about that. Like, my children put it into the recycling bin. They know that in the garbage. And then,
Right, but they're not.
well, I don't think they're disposing of it properly. I just want to make sure that
Right.
everything is
Yeah.
being
So
recycled.
right. And that I don't know, like, I know the same thing happened at the hospital.
Megan Bai is, she's a teacher at my school also, that's on board with this. We want to get really proactive about doing this, but yeah. And
So you want to know how to find out if your school is recycling? Is that what you're asking?
yes. We're to Kamloops band, so we're at Scalep, and we're part of your program now. We just started. We've got some wonderful garden bins, and the Shechef, oh, sorry about that. Chef people should be,
We are not recycling though. It goes all to the garbage. We have separate bins in our classrooms, but from the classroom, it doesn't matter what goes into the recycling, what goes into the garbage, because it all
the
goes.
children don't know that, believe me, but that kind of bothers me.
Right. Okay, well, maybe it's too bad, Jamie, because Jamie might know, but you maybe would ask the band office, I wonder, would be probably the contact.